Hey guys, so today I'm going to show you how I'm growing my potatoes this year. Well, sweet potatoes. First you're going to need some sweet potatoes and some shish kebab sticks or toothpicks, and you're going to put them in a jar of water like this with about, I want to say 2-3 inches sticking up. In about a week or two, you're gonna get some little buds on the top like this and root systems like this in the water. And then it's going to start growing little, what looks like little plants on the top. These are called slips. Okay. Once this happens, you're just going to let it grow until they're about, I want to say 5 to 6, 7 inches long, and then you can rip them off, and those little pieces, those little slips, you're going to root them in another jar of water. So as you can see, I ripped them off the top of the sweet potato and put them in a jar of water. If the sweet potato still has slips on it that are too small, just leave it there. They will continue to grow. Okay, so this is how it will look. You can see a root development in about 2 days. It's going to look like this. These are other sweet potatoes that I had rooting already. Or you can start your potatoes in a container of soil, like a foil pan with some soil, lay them flat, and the slips will grow, and you can just pluck them off of that. But I prefer the water and, a warm environment. You can also stick a sweet potato in the garden like this one. I put it in here in the spring, really early spring. It was still cold and I believe it snowed even. And they will also grow slips that have roots on them, and you could just pluck them off and put them in the garden. But if you live in an area where you have a short growing period, I suggest doing the water method in January when it's still freezing cold. Alright, so I'm getting this bed prepared. This is a 3 by 6 bed. I'm using half of the bed to grow a variety of sweet potatoes. I'm doing purple, white, Beauregard, I believe it's called, and another variety. That was a jumping worm that I took out of my garden bed. I don't know where they come from, but or where they came from, but this year they have been all over my garden, and I'm just going to try to live with them because it's annoying to keep taking them out. I did add some charcoal to the soil. I heard that this helps. I got this information from a fellow gardener on Instagram, so I just added this in the soil. The jumping worms pretty much destroyed the soil by turning it into basically like a coffee ground consistency, and when it rains, it kind of just washes away. So I heard that they don't really like the taste of charcoal or biochar. Biochar is something that is made. It kind of looks like charcoal, but it's not. It's made a specific way that you can add into your soil to amend it. Okay. I'm just going to spread this out. You want the soil to be nice and loose because last year I did try to plant sweet potatoes. I actually bought the slips because I was not successful with slips last year. So I bought them from a hardware store, and I made a mistake of not untangling the root systems and not burying them deep enough. So once you have your soil prepared, you want to bury your slips about 6 inches deep, removing all the leaves on the sides. This material or powder that I'm adding here is a fertilizer. It's higher in phosphorus instead of nitrogen, so it can focus on root developments, hopefully giving me a better result of sweet potato development instead of a bunch of leaves. And I'm also adding marigolds as a companion plant for my sweet potatoes. I started these marigolds from seed in the garden. I actually just sprinkled the seeds in the spring, and they pop up in clumps, and I just pluck them out and plant them. And just wanted to advise you, sometimes the best time to start new plants or to transplant plants is right before it rains, so this way the plants get watered in really nicely and aren't don't experience too much of a shock. I also planted some yard-long beans or bora where I'm from, for that trellis in the back, and that's also like a test. It's like a little experiment for myself. I experiment a lot in my garden. It's my garden, so I just do things to see what works for me, what I like. And yeah, that's just to help with a little bit of nitrogen fixing in the soil if it needs it. So as you guys could see, I plucked off the leaves on about 4 to 6 inches of the bottom part of the slips, and then I bury them deep. So the length of your trowel should be the depth that the slips go into if they're that long. If they're not that long, try to get them in as deep as possible, okay? So like I said, this bed is a 6 by 3, but I'm only using half of the bed for these sweet potato slips. I kind of lost count how many I added to this bed, but it was definitely more than 10. Just hoping, this year is successful. And when I do decide to harvest, I will be filming an updated video to show you guys what happened. So as you guys can see, some of these slips are really tiny, and I'm still going to take off the leaves on the bottom and then bury them as deep as I can. These are the slips that started on the sweet potato that I had buried in one of my raised beds in the springtime. And one thing about gardening is I personally feel that a lot of, people who claim to be perfect at it, it's always going to be different every year. This year was super different for a lot of things, especially peppers. It was so cold this summer as far as nighttime, 50-degree nights, and peppers do not mix well. The tomatoes did fine, but the peppers, pretty much on the struggle bus. Okay. I'm hoping to cut my peppers down and overwinter them like I did some others last year. Okay, but this year I'm more successful with my sweet potato slips. I literally have so many sweet potato slips. I have been giving them away. I've even had some sent to me. I planted those out, and some are added in this bed, but my own sweet potato slips, I've grown so many, and some of the sweet potatoes that I started indoors are still producing slips. So every year is different, every year you have to learn something different or change something you do to work with the new conditions that you have. All right, once you have your sweet potatoes planted, you want to water them in really deeply. And depending on the location of where you live, if it's super dry, you want to water, 3 times a week. I water twice a week. Okay, so this is how they look before, and this is exactly 26 days later. As you guys could see, they filled in pretty nicely and are starting to spread and vine out, and they will continue to do this up until it's time to harvest. And the best thing about this is when it's time to harvest, you can cut some of these vines, put them in water, and keep them as a house plant for next year, so you don't have to do the whole sweet potato suspended in water thing. Okay, I hope the video was helpful. If it was, give this video a thumbs up, comment down below, let me know what you think. And if you want to see a harvest video, also give this video a thumbs up. Thank you guys, and please subscribe. Bye.